So greetings are a really straightforward way of creating the conditions for more openness and inclusion, but of course it doesn't stop there. When we are with people, we are always creating these little symbols of inclusion and exclusion. Now, sometimes we do this consciously because we want to bring people in and some people we don't want to come too close, but more often this happens without thinking about it. So that is the people that we pay attention to, the people we laugh with, the people we invite into our spaces. And of course, this is really, really natural, right? Of course, we want to be with our friends. We want to be with people who get us, who share our values. But that can mean that sometimes we exclude people without even realizing. This really matters because when we see those little symbols of inclusion, it builds trust. It makes everything else easier. But on the flip side, when we feel we aren't included, without even realizing it, our belonging is threatened. We get anxious, it can create competition, it makes communication harder, and might actually make kind of nasty conflict a little bit more likely. Now, this is particularly challenging in neonatal wards and spaces because you're full of different groups with different experiences. You've got the different roles, you've got people who've been there for a long time versus people who've been there for a short time. Obviously, it's a very international space with different languages, different cultures as well. Now, obviously, these differences are really important to respect, but it's also really important to recognize when they are causing problems and when we need to invite people in, include them, make sure that we are creating that sense of team and not forming that kind of automatic bias to people like us. So we're going to look at a few ways that you can do this. So task-based inclusion. So if you are dealing with a messy incident, which of course you have to do in your spaces, there is a massive difference between a consultant who runs off as soon as the patient is taken care of and the consultant who stays behind and helps out with the cleanup. Or there's a colleague who avoids the thing they hate, whether that's messy cleanups or delivering bad news, versus the colleague who clearly doesn't like something but does it anyway for the good of the team. This sends a really, really clear message. We are in this together. I care about how we do, not just how I do. So have a think about how you might show your team the same. Even though you don't have to do something, doing it anyway can be really, really big. This might be going a little bit outside of your job role, and some people are, defensive about that for different reasons, but it can be an incredible symbol of inclusion. And when we don't do that and the team suffers as a result, we're going to create tensions. So reflect as you go about your day on what you could do that really symbols that togetherness, which tasks specifically you could engage in to create that belonging. So the next area is social inclusion. And in this case, compare the nurses who bring in food for the whole team versus the nurses who bring in food just for their own friends and their own clique. Or the midwife who makes space at the staff room table for the new consultant to join versus that kind of sad picture of the new consultant sat on their own in the corner, eating a banana, feeling like a lemon. This kind of thing happens all the time. And often we don't really talk about it because it's not in that kind of professional space, but it has an impact. Because this can happen so easily in your space, it gives there's more emphasis on you to actually break that down, to recognize that ultimately we all really care about the work. We're all vulnerable people. We all want to belong. We all want to be included. And so pushing past that is really, really important. Now, of course, this matters if you're in power. Okay, if you're in power, it's really important that you are including everyone around you. But actually, even if you're not as high up the hierarchy. For an example, I used to work with mental health support workers. I was the manager. They were all sat around having a chat, and I was going to have my lunch, and I felt really uncomfortable to approach them. One of them invited me into that space, and I felt so relieved, and it made it so much easier to have a much more kind of informal, collegial chat with those guys that then made the work that whole day a lot easier. So even senior people can be terrified as well. And so including them in your social spaces, including them in your conversations, your more casual stuff, that really matters. It really, really plays out. So as you go through your day, have a think. Who could you reach out to just once or twice to help feel more belonging? What cliques are you forming, whether that's around language, whether that's around your job roles, that you could maybe break up and include other people in? Taking that seriously really matters.